You can be briefed by delegates as they go to lunch. On a business day. Okay, I call it so right. Yo, it's called star. Please can you them across the road?
Yeah, but
You can just call, send someone across the road.
we're going live.
Our bees. So Kubandan. Then echo. Here tournament is to lose.
Once again, isahlala ngapha akutshintshe ngoba kubona kwenye icala.
Yes, true.
Nasiyasi.
More than because ANC TV corner. Umabele kon. Hey, good to a picture and look better. It's trending everywhere. Good idea, trend and but the better. Good to better pongo question and better.
Thank you very much, Secretary General, for the light moment. The NEC met over the weekend, Sunday. The Secretary General will present the outcomes of the NEC. SG? Which one?
Ayisebenzile. Kanjani? Good morning, everybody. This was the last NEC of this term of office. We may organize a special one on the eve of the conference to just do a mop-up of the work of the conference. So it's not my last time talking to the media, is this? I will have to speak to you during the conference as well. There's no bad feeling than to feel having run the race and come to the end. Is this? You feel good about it. We had the NEC over the weekend. It took one day. And that tells you that we're wrapping up our work. And that one day was concluding the term of office. But I can report that we have agreed that we'll have the tour of the venue on the 14th, and then as the NEC just see it, and then in the afternoon meet to deal with whatever comes out of the period. We received the political overview from the President, with, in the main, focused on the unity of the organization. Quite a warm overview, quite a fatherly overview, an overview that was, the President used the term outgoing president. He used that term, outgoing president of the ANC addressing that overview was quite fatherly and political. It also reaffirmed the need to appreciate that contestation for leadership positions is part of the internal democracy of the ANC. One of the things that always surprises is when we talk contestation, our media present it as divisions. Contestation for leadership is part of the internal democracy of a political organization, the African National Congress. In this regard, contestation for leadership position must help strengthen the ANC rather than weakening it. Now, if you counterpose that wisdom of the President to a narrative that if there is contestation, therefore you are preparing for a breakaway, it's a terrible narrative, actually. Contestation for leadership must actually strengthen the ANC. It must not weaken it. The NEC also received a further update on the preparation towards the 54th National Conference and considered the draft organizational report. The NEC was unanimous on the need to commit itself as individual members and all members of the organization to working hard and working together for unity. The success of the conference will be judged by the extent to which we made inroads in deepening and strengthening unity of our movement and society in general. And the conference must also focus on and give sufficient time for policy discussion and debates. Hence, we are reopening the interaction of the media with the policy subcommittees. That is part of ensuring that we will go to that conference again having refocused delegates to policies that should be debated in the conference. And the ANC, therefore, in convening these policy briefings, is to engage society as a whole and to keep policy issues to be deliberated at conference at the public discourse. Today, the ANC is convening the last two provincial general councils in KwaZulu-Natal and Limpopo following successful conclusion of other 7. Where there were appeals and decisions taken, and that appeal is to rerun a PGM, those branches are given up to Saturday to rerun those PGMs, because you can't have an appeal as just a useless exercise. If in listening to the appeal, the team decides, please rerun that branch general meeting. We say, we're giving you time up to Saturday to rerun. Verification of PGM for purpose of the conference has also now been underway for some time. Free State is concluded, Northern Cape, Free State, and Western Cape province have been concluded in terms of verification. Let me explain what verification is, because sometimes there's confusion between verification and audit. Audit is when we audit membership for branches to go to the PGMs. Branches that qualify to go to PGMs are those who have passed the audit. The audit will tell you a few things. The audit will tell you that, listen, you have more than 100 members, and therefore you are a branch that qualifies to go to a branch general meeting and a branch biennial general meeting. It will also tell you that the officials of the branch term has come to an end. You must go back and reconvene a biennial meeting and elect a new leadership. And on the basis of those who pass the audit, then we'll have BGMs. There is a requirement in the Constitution that branches that go to conference must have elected delegates from properly constituted BGMs. The verification is to verify if BGMs were properly constituted as required by the conference. So we're busy with that verification. We started a bit late because branch registers were inside the boxes that can only be opened by the Electoral Commission. And therefore we're going after the PGCs in terms of running the verification. But we follow them as they do the PGCs, we do the verification. That is what we're busy with. It is expected that we'll complete verification in the balance of the provinces within the next week. It is with great sadness that the African National Congress has received the news of the passing of Mr. T.V. Mapisa, who is the father of the NEC member and Minister of Defense and Military Veterans, Comrade Nosiviwe Mapisa. We're sending our condolences to that family. The ANC sends heartfelt condolences to the Mapisa families, and we wish them strength during this difficult time. And basically that is the introductory briefing. We're open to you for a conversation with all of you. I know you're not going to ask anything that is in the statement.
Of course.
You are going to ask everything else that is not in the statement. But fine. That is media freedoms that many journalists in other countries wish to have, you know. That's why you should appreciate the fact that the ANC is here.
Which is the reason we have received 3,000 applications. SG, I'll wait for you until you're ready.
I'm more than ready.
I don't see a pen on your right hand.
We are ready for Kwete Manta.
Members of the media, can you take questions, please? Ms. Wandile? No, we can hear you. You're audible enough.
Oh, okay. SG, just clarity on the, I know that with regards to the provinces, in terms of delegates, I think that was outlined, I think it was very clear. But there seems to be a confusing number that's to the leagues. For example, is it 25, is it 45, is it 60?
It's 60 per league.
60 per league. Oh. And then the PECs?
Wait. I need SG to say that with this.
And the PECs?
It's 60 per league. It's 27 for PEC. It's 27 for PEC. We are going to give chairpersons and secretaries of regions a right to attend as non-voting delegates.
Your next question, Ms. Wandile? You answered. Straightforward. And Debu?
The disputes from the branches, everything has to be finalized by Saturday. But how many branches have so far lodged disputes? And maybe what form of disputes? What kind of disputes?
Wait. So do you want to follow up on Debu?
A little bit around disputes, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. TV News 24. There are some in the party who've indicated that if they're not happy with how the disputes are resolved, they're willing to go to court. I mean, I've heard now people in the Northwest speaking, people in the Free State, for instance. Is the ANC concerned that this process will get land into court? We are literally counting down to conference. Is there a worry around the courts being an issue again in the next coming days? Thank you.
Quick follow-up. Cody from ENCA.
And the follow-up
It's a quick follow-up on that.
of ANC on News 24.
One of the presidential candidates, Mr. Matthews Posa, is reported to have basically said, because of the issues around the branch processes, he also will be taking to court today, which is Monday, to essentially nullify the Provincial General Council of Omani. What would be your view in that regard? I mean, given his stature in the party, is that something that the ANC welcomes?
As you can just deal with that first in the last round. Yeah.
I'd like to ask a more
No.
proper question.
I like when you go say, hey, we are ready.
This question is asked in every media briefing we have. How many disputes? Why is it an interest to have how many disputes? Can I tell you why this always surprised me? It's because it reflects the negativity in terms of orientation. What is important is that where disputes, doesn't matter what the number, they were processed, verdicts were given, therefore many of them closed. That is what is of interest to us. To keep a tally of disputes is not what we're dealing with. We're dealing with disputes being resolved and therefore allow branches to go to conference. Our interest is, the main aim is not to resolve disputes. The main objective is to ensure that branches of the ANC go to conference. That is the interest. 2, those who are not happy go to court. We don't have a problem with people going to court if they want to. That's not a big issue. The issue, though, is people who launch disputes and say, if you don't agree with me, I'll go to court. That is our worry. Because it means the dispute process is done as a formality. People want to go to court, and the problem with courts is that when they go to court, it becomes an exciting issue in the ANC. What people don't appreciate is the fact that many of those court cases don't succeed because they're not well thought through. People do it emotionally. They do it because they think that they want to spite the ANC. And the issue is, you go to court, fine, we go to court with you, you go to court in another province with you. That's why we sit in all these court cases, we have been there and contest them, because we don't want courts to make findings that are not based on the process of the ANC. So that is the freedom people have to go to court. That's the freedom people have. But the reality of the matter is that we want to go to conference, complete it, go there. I can tell you, once we finish the conference, nobody will be interested in going to court. Now, Matthew Posa will go to court to nullify the PTC of Mpumalanga. You can do that if you're interested to get instant satisfaction. You can do that. That's all it will serve. Because a PGC is not an election. A PGC nominates candidates. Not unless Comrade Posa says, those nominations that are written unity. Unity means Matthew Posa. If that is what it takes to court, then yes, there will be an interesting case. If Matthew Posa is unity. That is what will be interesting. But the reality of the matter is that we have a PGC, they all go there. All they do is to say, we have so many nominations that will get into the ballot box. Not unless he wants the court to put him on the ballot box, irrespective of what the branches say. If that is the case, I can only wish him good luck. Because once there are nominations, there will be elections. There will be another chance, if you think that you are robbed, to be nominated. Nomination from the floor, where you must have support of 25% of the branches. Ungaphinda-phindi the same people, sis.
No, andizoyenza loo nto esiya. Andizoyenza. I'm sorry, I don't think I recognize you.
So the question is, at the December conference, if there are votes for unity as the next leader of the ANC, will they be counted as abstentions, or how would you deal with that? And the other question is just about the meeting that was between Mr. Zuma and the leadership candidates. You said that it was a call for unity from him. Did he say that he was worried that the conference could not happen? Why did he assemble all of the leadership candidates, and anything else you can say about that meeting?
Thank you. Mtakwana Ngatani, SABC News. Mine has to do with the recently run by-election in Metsimaholo, where after winning 3 seats in its central committee meeting, the SACP says that it did this in the face of, and I quote, considerable destabilization efforts and threats emanating from Ace Magashule and his corporately captured Free State ANC faction. Has this come to the attention of the NEC, and if so, what's your response?
You mean the outcome of this now?
No, the issue, the fact that there was destabilization of threats to the SACP by Ace Magashule and his faction.
Okay. Sometimes you can see the SG's facial expression when you ask certain questions. Where does it come from? No, what is this?
It's about the ADEC.
Well, wait a minute. What is this? Huffington Post?
Good for now.
Yeah, no, these are the people I like to see every time to come to our conference. Element 7, you just said now. Yes.
No, just open.
Okay. Then let me ask the leader house now. Star, our neighbor. Yes.
Star, just wanted to find out what is the status of Mr. Faiz Jacobs in the Western Cape. Is he still the provincial secretary of the Western Cape, and will he be attending the elected conference as a voting PEC member?
Okay. Do you understand the question?
I understand and I don't understand.
Would you just explain?
Well, there were allegations that came out that they were trying to remove Mr. Faiz Jacobs from the PEC of the Western Cape after their PGC a week or so ago. And I just wanted to find out whether he's still...
Thanks for the explanation. EWN?
I'm fine for now.
702 Eyewitness News. I just want to ask right at the end. Wait now, yeah.
I only would say Damos and me.
Yeah.
Right.
You always ask the city, must see something.
Thank you again. I just wanted to ask a quick question about the ADEC. I do know, I saw the statement this morning, and I do know that you're going to report them. Sorry? ADEC.
Makosi calls that party.
The new political party. I know you're going to report them, I know you're worried about the logo, but can I just ask, is the ANC not worried that it's yet another elective and it's yet another political party? I mean, you might not call it a splinter from the conference, but in essence, it is linked to it. Just wanted to get reaction to that. Thank you.
We worried about the formation of another new political party.
Well, it's coming off the ANC, in essence.
Not coming off the ANC.
Okay, we'll answer that. Colin?
What is the ANC's view on arranged leadership? Does the ANC accept what seemingly now is called consensus leadership? What will be the ANC's approach there? The other one, what will be the status of the Free State PEC to that conference? They've not been able to hold their conference this past weekend as scheduled. What will be their status at that conference? Therefore, I'll leave it there for
No, you're not coming back. Consensus leadership and arranged leadership is very disputed. It's not the same.
David McKenzie from CNN. My question, SG, is there have been some delays, issues, court appeals at the provincial level. So what if the same thing happens at the big important conference? What provisions are in place should the decision for new leadership not actually be taking place? Through court issues or any other issues?
Thank you very much. That was the last round, SG. Because I can see we're going to repeat ourselves.
Yes.
Yes. Before we get to that point, at least let's allow you. The next briefing of the policy engagements in Okotongwana is already available. Is ready to engage you. SG?
Can I have a right to refuse to answer questions?
No.
Yes, how do you like that right?
I don't agree.
There's a very important right, the right to refuse to answer questions or call my lawyer before I answer any questions. And not answer any questions that incriminate. Yeah?
Yeah.
Those are rights. I know that you think that we're not entitled to all these rights. We are. If there are votes for unity, there will be no vote for unity because there will be no unity on the ballot box. Okay? So there can be no vote for unity because there is no body called unity, and therefore there will be no unity on the ballot box. Okay? So everything that follows on that falls flat because there is no body called unity. And therefore there will be no unity on the ballot box. That's it. So the work that is there is to go and try to convert unity into names of human beings. Because we don't vote for the sake of voting, we vote for names. Because if you are nominated, we must test if you have been a member of the ANC for at least 10 years. Now, long for Kutwang unit. As far as how long has he been a member of the ANC? So he may be disqualified on the basis of short membership. He doesn't have the 10 years. Then we disqualify this chap from contesting elections. You know? Okay. Why did the president of the ANC call the 7 presidential hopefuls? I made a statement over the weekend that the period for hopefuls is coming to an end now. At the end of these 2 PGCs, there will be nobody called hopefuls because provinces will have nominated. So there will be people who are now candidates. So we're coming to the end of the period of hopefuls. We're getting to a period of dealing with candidates, okay, as nominated by the various provinces. Now, the essence of the meeting with the 7 hopefuls and the provincial chairpersons and secretaries was to say, everybody who wants to be nominated must equally prepare himself or herself for not being nominated. Everybody nominated must prepare himself or herself for winning after nomination and contest, and also prepare and accept that if I don't succeed, I will accept the outcome. So in other words, nobody must go into a contest with one mind of winning. And if I am not winning, I will protest one form or the other. Everybody must accept that we are going to an election. Contestation is part of the internal democracy. And if I win, good luck. If I don't win, I pledge my support to whoever wins. That was just reminding people of the culture and the traditions of the movement. Metsimaholo, I don't want to speak for the Communist Party. There were elections in Metsimaholo. There's still a Hang municipality in Metsimaholo. So the problem that was before those elections has not been reflected, has not been resolved. So what we are not going to do is to negotiate with the Communist Party in the public. We're not going to do that. We don't do that with other parties. We talk to a number of parties in Metsimaholo. Can we work together to form a government? We're the biggest component of that municipality with 16 seats, followed by the DA with 11. The party has 3. What will be required is that we talk to people to form a government. We'll engage the Communist Party. If they want to come into a coalition led by the ANC, we'll work with them. If they don't want, we'll work in the opposition benches. We've done that in many municipalities. So I don't want to engage them in the public domain. It's not the right way of engaging them. But the reality of the matter is that there's a high municipality there. The Communist Party doesn't have many choices. The first choice is to work with the ANC, or the next choice is to work with the DA and the EFF. It's a choice that the party has. Simple. State of Faiz, he was in the NEC yesterday. He was about Faiz Jacobs. Yes, he was in the NEC as the Secretary of the Western Cape. He remains the Secretary of the Western Cape. We don't have voodoo processes to either suspend or fire people that we make a big noise, therefore it's suspended. It doesn't work that way. For a provincial secretary, the province may do certain things, but I think that they cannot do. Okay? So, he's the secretary of the province. He was in the NEC this weekend. We're expecting him to come to the national conference next week. Hey, I don't know what do people want me to say about ADEC. Is it ADEC?
Yeah. In abantu bayo khange bayichaze kwabona bebethetha ngathi, they were talking about us.
I don't know what they wanted to say.
They could not explain it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you want to say.
Yeah.
No, the colors will contest those colors because the colors are really intended to confuse voters. That will contest with the IEC. That's one thing. One thing we've taken is to contest the colors. Number two is to contest ATC. We're already having a nightmare with AIC. We don't want people who vote somebody else by accident. We are contesting that in the AIC. That's all I can say. Other things, really. Arranged leadership
and consensus.
Or consensus leadership. I don't know what is an arranged leadership. I don't know what that is. Yeah, no. I don't know what that is. But what I know is that when you go to a conference, provinces, delegates engage one another and try to reach out for each other. There is always a possibility of contesting. There is always a possibility of people agreeing that, listen, it's not worth contesting and try to divide the delegates and agree on some people in positions not to be contested. If that happens, it will be good for the ANC. An uncontested leadership instill hope to society. But if there must be contest, we allow the contest. If the people agree, we must accept that people have agreed. Don't call it an arranged, no, call it what? Consensus. Comrade, engage each other. Nominations are coming through. For example, the position of the president, I'm not sure if they will still be talking about 7. The likelihood will be talking about fewer than 7. And in that process, people can begin to engage. And there's nothing wrong with that politically. Okay. What will be the status of the Free State? The Free State is the province, one of the 9 provinces. It will come to the province, to the national conference as one of the 9 provinces. The PEC of the Free State will come to the conference as the PEC of the Free State. It's not dissolved. It's not dissolved. To do what? Now, you see, it's not like medicine, that the expiry date is this. Structures don't go like medicine. Now you think that we are dealing with some medicine which is a manufacturing date and an expiry date. That province is going to a conference, is preparing for a conference. It is delayed by court because there are people who go to court and say 29 branches must be rerun and so forth. Those branches will be rerun from Wednesday, okay? You're in the, wait, don't be in a hurry. If they hold the conference, even if it's this coming weekend, that new PC will go to conference. If they don't hold it, the PC that is in place now will go to conference as the PC of the Free State.
But that opens it up.
It opens nothing up.
It opens up SG. I'm sorry, but could I engage with a little bit? It opens it up to people going to court to say you had participants there who were not.
We have a PSA in the Free State. It's not an illegitimate PSA. It is doing the work of the ANC in that province. It's taken to court, don't go to a conference. It doesn't go to a conference. It complies with the court order, which does not dissolve it. Okay, that court order doesn't dissolve the BC of the Free State. It extends time for it to hold the provincial conference. Okay. If that extension continues, they're going to court in one of these days. If it extended further, they will go to the conference as the PC of the Free State. What does not happen in an organization, so let me tell you, an organization never have a vacuum. We don't say by sell by date, your mandate is finished, therefore there's no leadership in that structure. It doesn't work that way. That's why we hold conferences regularly. Okay, that's it. So the Free State Conference, comrades are working on the 29 branches, they must rerun them. Let me tell you, for example, if the chairman say, unless you are running them successfully, you can't go to a conference, it means if I have a group, I'm a faction, we can stop our faction from going to a PGM and collapse that PGM. Because you want to have this linger, and therefore what you are saying as a narrative becomes an act of delaying and destabilization. The Free State will go to a conference. If its mandate is extended by court, we'll continue until we have that conference. Okay? There is no thing that says a structure collapses because the sell-by date has arrived. There's no such a thing. Okay. Courts and appeals at provincial level, there are many of those. Appeals have been heard. I think most of them are cleared. That's why where there is a rerun, it's a rerun. We've given them up to Saturday to rerun a branch. And we have a national conference from the 16th to the 20th that is going ahead. Now, we can't make assumptions here that what if and what if, we can't work that way. We are running an organization, we're going to a conference, we're working very hard to ensure that that conference is successful and stable. And I can tell you that with the environment that we observe over the weekend, there is more hope that that conference is going to be stable. Because we said anarchists must be dealt with by their provinces, you see. If you are an anarchist in that conference, the first line of defense for the conference is your province. You are disrupting the conference, your province must take you out of conference. If you don't, we will take you out of conference. So there's going to be a good conference, you will be there, you have been invited, you will witness a good conference. Okay, thank you very much.
SG, is the ANC preparing for an outcome that might be contested in court?
No. No.
If it comes?
Unless you know something we do not know, then tell us what is it that you know that we do not know. Sorry. Sometimes you know something we do not know, and therefore you are advising us to prepare for a conference that will be conducted post that conference. We don't work that way. You may have some information that you get that is actually privy to you. Please tell us, okay? That's it.
In other words, we are preparing for a successful conference, first of all. Thank you very much, SG. I now hand you over to Kinoko Dongwana to proceed with Kusela. On behalf of myself and SG, Shashe.
He's from China. He's taking Chinese now, Shashe. Welcome, Magiba. Come and take the podium. Sorry, I haven't seen what you're going to present. Yeah.
All right, listening to SG Gwedimantashe speaking at the media briefing on the outcomes of the ANC's last NEC meeting. Once again, unity coming out as the common theme that we've been hearing, and he was speaking also a lot about the BGMs and the PECs. He said that some of these court cases have been divisive and have been disrupting that unity that the ANC is seeking. He spoke about the contestation of the leadership positions as part of their democratic principle within the ANC, and that this must bring about unity, not division. He says that the talk of a breakaway party is not good, and he said that the NEC has resolved that the success of the conference, of the elective conference, will be measured by how much unity is created. So that just in brief what came out of that briefing from the outcomes of the ANC's NEC. We're going to take you now to KwaZulu-Natal, I believe, where that PGC is underway. Still at the podium addressing the gathering is the ANC chair, Zikhle